And as you say, actual just safety, protection of your business,
Right.
or it potentially getting bombed. I mean, I know the Europa Hotel, which was one of the biggest at the time in the city centre. I'm not sure whether it still is, but it was for years famously known as the most bombed hotel in Europe.
Talk to me about one of the things. My background is one of adversity. So eight brothers and sisters, and I come from a very humble beginning and abject poverty. And so I'm all about the challenge of growing up and reaching out and having success from that environment. And so I'm always looking for what was the challenging part for the guests when they come on. The one that intrigues me, I'd be interested to hear your answer on this, and you alluded to it, is what was going on in Ireland in the 90s, and how did that, maybe flesh that out for maybe the younger people who don't know what was happening, and then how do you navigate that?
So you mean the Troubles?
Yeah, all the government issues and all the
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was born in early 80s, so I wasn't born in the very, very difficult times, but my parents certainly had businesses through the worst times. But I still, I grew up and you were in bomb scares. It was in the news every night.
mhm.
Northern Ireland's a very small country, so you're not too far away from um I mean, I grew up in the countryside, so we were pretty well protected because you're not in a city. And it sounds a bit crazy, Jay, when you look at the TV now and see what was going on, but it was just normal to us. So, like, I was never scared, or it was just part of life. And, we had a hotel at the time, and thankfully it wasn't one of the biggest. But, there was bomb scares, so guests had to be evacuated. Um, so, yeah, no, challenging times in terms of people's safety and the economy. And then in the mid 90s, the peace process came into Northern Ireland. So, we had no international branded hotels in Northern Ireland for years and
Oh,
years and years because of the trouble. So it was all small local family. So I remember the Hilton was the first chain hotel that came into Northern Ireland. I believe that was the late 90s. So you'll now see, you'll still see a lot of really good entrepreneurs from Northern Ireland because it was just so tough.
mhm.
When they started, it was, very small country, not a massive economy in terms of, if you think of London or New York or even Dublin now, Northern Ireland would be nowhere near that level. And as you say, actual just safety, protection of your business,
Right.
um, or it potentially getting bombed. I mean, I know the Europa Hotel, which was one of the biggest at the time in the city centre. I'm not sure whether it still is, but it was for years famously known as the most bombed hotel in Europe. And that was just literally, a couple of hundred beds in a hotel, people staying on two sides, like any war, you've two sides fighting, and one side decided to get what they wanted. So a phone call, how it happens is a phone call is made to a reception in a hotel to say you've got 15 minutes to get it evacuated. Um, so your receptionist, so a button is hit and processes go in place, and you've a 10, 15, 20-story building full of guests, and they have to be evacuated. But that, people, it was just normal. And those guys, they joke about it. They don't mean we don't joke about it in the sense of the lives that were lost, but I suppose there's a joke about it in the sense of that was just normal life. And
I think that's the part that is missed throughout any adversity. And hearing you say that, I didn't even think about that. That it just becomes normal life because I look at it and I think, how in the world? How did your dad run a business in the middle of that? How did that hotel even keep its doors open? Why would someone come back after the first bomb scare, forget about the second or the 12th or the 15th scare? How do you even get a customer to walk in your door? But I forget about the kind of the normalcy of those sorts of things. You talk about bodegas that were running in London during World War II, and I mean, there's still the economy goes on no matter how fragile it is, and it's
well, even
easy
I
to
mean, I'll give you
forget that.
a business example I remember as a child. So forgetting about the adversity in terms of people's lives. So we were at a trade show in Dublin. I was about 10 or 11. So we were there selling the hotel to tourists in Ireland, in the south of Ireland, to come to Belfast for a weekend. And that weekend was one of the biggest atrocities in Northern Ireland, bombing. So that bomb happened when we were in Dublin that weekend. So it just hit the news everywhere in Dublin. So we're a small hotel. We've paid for a big stand at a trade show, and 5 hours into the trade show, we had to pack up and come home. So that, there's no recouping the money. That's all sales and marketing. Another example, we would have had people coming from England, and once they came to the airport, they came to the hotel, they went to the office they had to go to, back to the hotel and back to the airport. Now, we had no license in the hotel at that stage, so they would have had to go to the bottom of the street to get a pint of Guinness, and they didn't want to do that. So we had to change the business model and open a licensed premises in the building, because we were going to lose them, because they literally were scared to walk 100 yards. Now, we knew they were safe for the area we were in, but you try and tell someone that who comes from England and all they're seeing on the media. So, it impacted hugely, as you said, the actual business model and how you did things.
Yeah, that talk about innovating and working on the fly, and for prospective business owners or existing ones, even, it's good to have that perspective. I think it's why I love having conversations with other entrepreneurs, because particularly around the world, I can kind of have an idea of how things happen, say here in the States, but a story like that and coming from that background, or people who come, I have a friend of mine actually whose parents ran a business in the middle of Saigon for 40 years. How that's, to me, in my head, I can't believe how that's possible. And they said, yeah, it was just normal. It was just every day. My mentor, he just died at 86 years old, and he was a kid during World War II, and he lived in London. And he said it was just, the people would bomb and the bombing would end, and you get out and you go walk down the street, and, everything was a rubble, but it was normal for us. So I guess that's the perspective that it's important to keep, particularly from an entrepreneurial side.